The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything. Ambassador Palmer stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, surrounded by beings from 12 different species. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had bodies made of living crystal. All of them looked down at him with the same expression. It was the look you give to a child who has broken something valuable. "The council has reached its decision," said High Speaker of the. He was tall and thin, with silver skin and eyes that glowed like dying stars. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "The species known as humanity has been judged a threat to galactic stability." Palmer felt his heart beating faster, but he kept his face calm. He had served as Earth's ambassador for 23 years. He had learned to hide his feelings a long time ago. "May I ask what threat we pose?" Palmer said. "Earth has followed every rule. We have stayed within our borders. We have never attacked anyone." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You have advanced too quickly. Your technology grows faster than any species in recorded history. This is dangerous. This is unacceptable." "We are simply trying to survive," Palmer said. "You are trying to become powerful," replied. "The Council will not allow this. You will surrender all military vessels. You will destroy all weapons. You will accept protectorate status under Council supervision. You have 30 standard days to comply." Palmer stared at the High Speaker. Around him, the representatives of 12 ancient civilizations watched in silence. Not one of them spoke in humanity's defense. "And if we refuse?" Palmer asked quietly. Leaned forward, his glowing eyes narrowed. "Then we will come to Earth with 3,000 warships and we will make you comply. Your species is 200 years old in space. We have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. Do not test us, little ambassador. You will lose." Palmer wanted to argue, he wanted to shout, but he knew it would change nothing. These beings had already made their decision. To them, humanity was just another young species that needed to be controlled. "I will deliver your message," Palmer said. He turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, he heard speaking to the others. "Humans, they are like children playing with fire. It is time someone took the matches away." Palmer sent the transmission to Earth 3 hours later. He expected panic. He expected fear. He expected desperate calls asking what to do. Instead, he received a short reply from Secretary General Moore. "Thank you, come home, let them come." That was all, just 8 words. Palmer read them again and again, trying to understand. Earth had a small defense fleet, maybe 200 ships. The Council was sending 3,000. The math was simple. Earth would be destroyed. Unless Moore knew something he did not. On Earth, Secretary General Moore stood at the window of her office in Geneva. She was 57 years old, with gray hair and sharp eyes that never seemed to blink. Behind her, generals and advisors waited for orders. "Get me Admiral," she said. "Tell him to come home immediately. Tell him it is time." Admiral Daniel received the message while stationed near Neptune. He was a quiet man with dark hair turning white at the temples. He had commanded Earth's outer fleet for 15 years, and in all that time, he had never received an order like this one. "Set course for Earth," he told his crew. "Maximum speed." His first officer looked confused. "Sir, our patrol schedule has just been cancelled," said. "Something is happening, something big." He arrived at Earth 4 days later. A shuttle took him down to Geneva, and from there a car drove him to a location he had never seen before. It was a bunker, hidden deep beneath the Swiss Alps. The entrance was disguised as an old mining operation. Secretary General Moore was waiting for him inside. "Daniel," she said, "thank you for coming so quickly." "What is happening?" asked. "The Council has threatened us with invasion. We cannot fight 3,000 ships." Moore smiled. It was a cold smile, the kind that held no warmth at all. "Come with me. There is something I need to show you." She led him through corridors of steel and concrete, past security checkpoints manned by soldiers he did not recognize. Finally, they entered a massive room filled with holographic displays. Maps of the solar system floated in the air, covered with thousands of tiny lights. "What am I looking at?" asked. "Our real military," Moore said. "The fleet the galaxy knows about is just for show. This is what we have actually been building for the last 100 years." Stared at the display. The lights represented ships, weapons platforms, and defense stations. There were thousands of them, hidden in asteroids, buried on moons, floating in the dark spaces between planets. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "After the Council destroyed our colony on 7, we learned a lesson," Moore said. "We learned that the galaxy does not respect the weak, so we smiled. We followed their rules. We acted like the obedient children they wanted us to be. And every single day we prepared for the moment they would come for us." She touched a control, and new images appeared. Ships unlike anything had ever seen. Weapons that bent light and gravity. Technology that the elder species had abandoned thousands of years ago because they considered it too dangerous. "They think they know us," Moore said. "They think humans are young and foolish and easy to control. They have no idea what we really are." Felt something strange rising in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was hope. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "I need you to command our real fleet," Moore said. "I need you to show the galaxy that humanity is not a species to be conquered. We are a species to be feared." Looked at the display one more time. 3,000 Council ships were coming to Earth. They expected an easy victory. They expected humanity to kneel. They were wrong. "When do we begin?" asked. Moore's cold smile grew wider. "We already have." Far away in the darkness between stars, the Council's invasion fleet began its journey toward Earth. High Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars pass by. He had conquered 11 species in his long career. He had never lost a single battle. This mission would be easy, he thought. Humans were weak. Humans were young. Humans would surrender the moment they saw his fleet. He had no idea that he was flying into a trap that had been set 100 years ago. And by the time he understood, it would be far too late. Admiral Daniel spent the next 3 days learning secrets that had been hidden for a century. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in rooms that did not exist on any official map, he met the people who had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. They were scientists, engineers, and soldiers. They had worked in silence for decades, knowing that one day the galaxy would come for Earth. That day had finally arrived. Dr. Laura was the first to brief him. She was a small woman with messy brown hair and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. She looked like a librarian. In reality, she was the most dangerous weapons designer in human history. "Project Nightfall," she said, pointing to a holographic display. "This is what we have been building." The display showed a device that looked almost simple. A metal sphere about the size of a basketball, nothing special, nothing impressive. "What does it do?" asked. Smiled. "It manipulates gravity. We can create a gravity field so intense that it crushes anything inside it. Ships, stations, anything." Frowned. "The elder species abandoned gravity weapons 10,000 years ago. They said the technology was too unstable." "They were afraid of it," said. "We were not. We spent 80 years making it work. And now we have over 2,000 of these devices hidden throughout the solar system." Felt a chill run down his spine. He was beginning to understand just how long humanity had been preparing for war. The next briefing came from Captain Cole. He was a young man with tired eyes and a jaw that looked like it had been carved from stone. He commanded a ship called the Quiet Thunder, and officially that ship did not exist. "We have a shadow fleet," Cole explained. 300 ships that have never been registered with the Council. They were built inside hollowed-out asteroids. They have stealth systems that make them invisible to any sensor the elder species use. 300 ships against 3,000, said. "Those are still bad numbers." Cole shook his head. "You are thinking like they want you to think. We are not going to fight them ship to ship. We are going to ambush them. We are going to hit them from directions they never expected. And by the time they figure out what is happening, half their fleet will already be gone." General Amy gave the final briefing. She was an older woman with silver hair cut short and a scar running down the left side of her face. She had been planning this defense for 30 years. "The Council expects us to meet them in open space," she said. "They expect a traditional battle. They have no idea that we have turned our entire solar system into a trap." She showed the plan. Weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt. Mines floating in the darkness near Jupiter. Attack drones waiting in the rings of Saturn. Every planet, every moon, every rock in the solar system had been turned into part of the defense. "We let them in," said. "We let them think they are winning, and then we close the trap." Studied the plan for hours. It was brilliant. It was ruthless. and it might actually work. That evening, Secretary General Moore called him to her office. She was standing by the window again, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and red. "What do you think?" she asked. "I think we have a chance," said, "a real chance." Moore nodded slowly. 112 years ago, the Council destroyed our colony on 40,000 people. Men, women, children. They burned them all because we had expanded beyond the borders they assigned us. She turned to face him. Her eyes were hard. "I was 7 years old when that happened. My grandmother was on 7. I never saw her again. After that, my father dedicated his life to making sure it would never happen again. He started Project Nightfall. He built the first hidden shipyard. He created the plans that we are using today." "He must have been a remarkable man," said. "He was angry," Moore replied. "And he passed that anger to me, not the hot kind that makes you do stupid things, the cold kind, the kind that helps you plan, the kind that helps you wait." She walked to her desk and picked up a small device. It was a communicator linked directly to the Council's broadcast network. "The Council gave us 30 days to surrender," she said. "It has been 10 days. I think it is time to give them our answer." She activated the device. Her image would now be broadcast to every species in the galaxy. "This is Secretary General Moore of the United Earth Government," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "We have received your ultimatum, we have considered your demands, and our answer is simple." She paused for a moment. "Earth declines." Across the galaxy, beings of 100 different species watched in shock. No one had ever refused the Council before. No one had ever been foolish enough to try. "You believe humanity is weak," Moore continued. "You believe we are children who need to be controlled. You are wrong. We have been preparing for this day for longer than you know. Come to our system if you wish. But understand this, any fleet that enters our space with hostile intent will not leave it. This is not a threat. It is a promise." She ended the transmission. Watched her with new respect. "They will be furious." "Good," Moore said. "Angry enemies make mistakes, and we need them to make many mistakes." Far away aboard his flagship, High Admiral watched the human's message with growing rage. His scales turned dark purple, a sign of extreme anger among his species. "Arrogant creatures," he growled. "They dare to threaten us, they dare to refuse." His officers waited in nervous silence. "Increase speed," ordered. "I want to reach Earth in 15 days, not 20. And when we arrive, I want nothing left. No ships, no stations, no survivors. The galaxy will learn what happens when you defy the Council." His fleet surged forward, 3,000 ships racing toward Earth like a storm of metal and fire. They did not know that humanity was counting on exactly this reaction. In the bunker beneath Geneva, Moore turned to with that cold smile he was beginning to know so well. "They are coming faster now," she said. "Angry and careless, perfect." "And if the trap fails?" asked. Moore's smile faded. "Then humanity ends. There is no backup plan. There is no second chance. We win here or we die here." She extended her hand. "Welcome to the war, Admiral. I hope you are ready." Shook her hand firmly. "I have been waiting my whole life for this," he said. "Let them come." And so the fleet came. 3,000 ships carrying the fury of 12 ancient civilizations. They came to crush a species that had dared to say no. They had no idea what was waiting for them in the darkness between the planets. The Council fleet entered the solar system on a cold morning in March. Admiral watched them on the tactical display aboard his flagship, the carrier Endurance. 3,000 ships, arranged in perfect formation. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known fear. "They are beautiful," said Commander Bate, his tactical officer. She was a tall woman with red hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing, in a terrible kind of way. "They are about to become debris," replied. "Status of all defense platforms." Armed and waiting, Captain Cole's stealth fleet is in position behind them. Doctor's gravity weapons are ready. Everything is set. Nodded slowly. The plan was simple in concept but incredibly complex in execution. Let the enemy in, make them feel confident, then hit them from every direction at once. The hard part was waiting. High Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. He was a species of reptilian warriors who had conquered half the galaxy before joining the Council. In 300 years of military service, He had never lost a battle. He did not plan to start today. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Find their fleet." His sensor officer worked for a moment, then looked up with confusion. "I am detecting approximately 150 human vessels near Earth, High Admiral, light cruisers and patrol ships. Nothing that could threaten us." Made a rumbling sound of satisfaction. "As expected, the humans have no real military. This will be over in hours." He opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "Attention, human forces. This is High Admiral of the Galactic Council. You have refused to surrender peacefully. Now you will surrender by force. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. You have 5 minutes to comply." He closed the channel and waited. On the Endurance, listened to the message with a slight smile. The arrogance was exactly what they had expected. "He thinks this is over," said. "He is about to learn otherwise. Signal all platforms. Execute Phase 1 in 3 minutes." The minutes passed slowly. Watched his tactical display, waiting for the human ships to power down. They did not. "They are refusing to surrender," his sensor officer reported. "Foolish," said. "All ships prepare to engage. We will destroy them and then burn their planet too." He never finished the sentence. Across the asteroid belt, 2,000 weapons platforms activated at once. They had been hidden inside rocks and debris, completely invisible to Council sensors. Now they opened fire with everything they had. The first wave of missiles hit the Council fleet from above, below, and both sides simultaneously. Ships exploded before their crews even understood what was happening. Shields that had never failed suddenly collapsed under weapons they had never seen before. "What is happening?" roared. "We are under attack from everywhere," his tactical officer shouted. "Unknown weapons, unknown positions. We have lost 400 ships in the first minute." 400 ships, gone in 60 seconds, stared at his display in disbelief. This was not possible. Humans did not have this technology. Humans were weak and primitive. "All ships evasive maneuvers," he commanded. "Reform behind the gas giant. We need to." The second wave hit before he could finish. This time it was Doctor's gravity weapons. Small drones flew among the Council ships and activated their payloads. Inside the targeted vessels, gravity suddenly increased 1,000-fold. Crews were crushed to paste. Hulls collapsed inward like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. Lieutenant Torres flew his interceptor through the chaos, leading a squadron of Earth's fighters. They were small and fast, designed to slip between the larger ships and attack from inside the formation. "This is Eagle's squadron," Torres said into his radio. "We are engaging enemy command ships. Watch your spacing and stay with your wingmen." His squadron dove into the heart of the Council fleet. Enemy fighters tried to intercept them, but the human ships were faster and more agile. Torres had trained for this moment his entire life. Every simulation, every drill, every sleepless night had led to this. He locked onto a Council cruiser and fired. The missiles struck perfectly, tearing through the ship's engines. It spun out of control and crashed into another vessel. "Direct hit," Torres said, "moving to next target." Watched his fleet being torn apart and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "Where are these attacks coming from?" he demanded. "Everywhere, High Admiral. They have weapons hidden throughout the entire system. We are surrounded." And then things got worse. Behind the Council fleet, Captain Cole's stealth ships. 300 vessels appeared from nothing, blocking the only route of retreat. They opened fire immediately, catching the Council ships between 2 waves of destruction. The battle became a massacre. Ships that had ruled the galaxy died in minutes. Technology that had crushed 1,000 species failed against weapons they could not understand. The mighty Council fleet, the largest invasion force ever assembled, was being annihilated by a species they had dismissed as children. After 2 hours, it was over. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered the solar system, fewer than 400 remained. They were damaged, confused, and surrounded. Their weapons were empty, their shields were failing, their crews were dying. Stood alone on his bridge. Most of his officers were dead. His beautiful flagship was burning. A human voice came through his communication system. "High Admiral, this is Admiral Daniel of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your fleet is destroyed. Your escape route is blocked. You have two choices. Surrender now or join the rest of your ships as debris. Wanted to refuse. He wanted to fight to the death like a true warrior. But as he looked at the destruction around him, he knew that more death would change nothing. I surrender, he said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. 30 minutes later, he was brought aboard the Endurance in chains. Admiral was waiting for him. Why did you not destroy my ship? Asked. Why keep me alive? Looked at him with cold eyes. Because I want you to go back to the Council. I want you to tell them exactly what happened here. I want them to understand what humanity is capable of when we are threatened. He stepped closer to the defeated Admiral. We are not children, said quietly. We are not prey. We are the species that turned our entire solar system into a weapon. We are the species that destroyed the greatest fleet in galactic history, and if the Council comes for us again, we will do the same thing, again and again until there is nothing left. Stared at the human, seeing him clearly for the first time. This was not a primitive creature. This was a predator who had been hiding its true nature for 100 years. The Council will not accept this, said. Smiled. It was the same cold smile that Secretary General Moore had worn. Then the Council will learn the same lesson you just did, he replied. The hard way. The broken remains of the invasion fleet limped out of the solar system, carrying with them a message for the galaxy. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not afraid. And humanity was just getting started. The news reached the Galactic Council 3 days later. In the Great Hall where 12 species had ruled for 50,000 years, there was silence. Complete, terrible silence. Representatives stared at their displays, watching footage from the battle over and over again. They saw their mighty fleet torn apart. They saw weapons that should not exist. They saw everything they believed about humanity proven wrong. Chancellor was the first to speak. He was a species known for their cold logic and political cunning. He had pushed harder than anyone for the invasion of Earth. This is not possible, he said. Humans do not have this technology. They could not have hidden these weapons from us. There must be some mistake. There is no mistake, said a weak voice from the entrance. High Admiral limped into the chamber. He was still injured from the battle. His scales were cracked and burned. One of his arms hung useless at his side, but his eyes were clear and his voice was steady. I was there, said. I saw it with my own eyes. The humans destroyed us, completely and totally. They have weapons we cannot match. They have technology we cannot understand. And they have been hiding all of this for over 100 years. Impossible, repeated. We have watched them. We have monitored their development. They showed no signs of. They showed us what they wanted us to see, interrupted. They played the role of the weak young species because that is what we expected. And while we looked down on them, they built an arsenal capable of destroying everything we have. Elder rose slowly from his seat. He was the oldest species in the Council. His body was thin and fragile, but his mind was sharper than anyone else in the room. I warned you, said quietly. 50 years ago, I warned this Council that humanity was different. I told you that a species which advances so quickly is either desperate or dangerous. You did not listen. What would you have us do? Demanded. Surrender, except that these primitives have defeated us. I would have you think, replied. Something this Council has not done in a very long time. The doors opened again, and Ambassador Palmer walked in. But he did not walk like a man who came to beg for peace. He walked like a man who had already won. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Palmer said, I bring a message from Earth. He placed a small device on the floor. A holographic image of Secretary General Moore appeared, life-sized and eerily realistic. Members of the Council, the image said, you sent 3,000 ships to conquer Earth. We sent back 400. The rest are debris in our solar system. We could have destroyed them all. We chose not to because we wanted you to understand something important. The image paused for a moment. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule the galaxy. All we have ever wanted is to live in peace as equals. But understand this clearly. We will never again accept being treated as lesser beings. We will never again allow our colonies to be destroyed. We will never again bow to a council that sees us as children to be controlled. If you leave us alone, we will be the best neighbors you have ever had. But if you threaten us again, if you send another fleet to our space, we will not stop with your ships. We will bring the war to you, and we will end it on our terms." The hologram flickered and disappeared. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted in anger, others whispered in fear. Chancellor pounded his fist on his desk. "This is a declaration of war," he roared. "We must respond with overwhelming force. Every ship in the council must be mobilized. We will gather 10,000 vessels and crush these humans once and for all." "And how many will come back?" asked quietly. 2,000, 1,000, none. Turned on him with fury in his eyes. "You are a coward. You lost one battle and now you want to surrender." "I am a realist," replied. "I have fought 100 wars. I know when an enemy is beaten and I know when an enemy is too strong to defeat. The humans are too strong. They have been preparing for this moment for a century. We walked into their trap like fools. If we send a larger fleet, we will simply create a larger trap." Elder nodded slowly. "The Admiral is correct. Humanity has demonstrated capabilities we do not understand. Until we learn more about their technology and their weaknesses, another attack would be suicide." "So what do you suggest?" snapped. "That we accept their terms, that we treat them as equals?" "Yes," said simply. "That is exactly what I suggest." In a private room near the council chamber, advisor Myra Santos watched the debate through a hidden camera. She was human, one of the few who lived among the council species. She had been born on Earth but had spent the last 40 years on the council's capital world. She was also a spy. "The council is divided," she said into a secure communicator. "Wants war, wants peace. The others are confused and frightened. They do not know what to do." "Keep watching," said Secretary General Moore's voice, "and be ready to move if necessary." "Understood." Santos ended the transmission and returned to watching. She had waited decades for this moment. The moment when humanity stopped hiding and showed the galaxy what it truly was. It was beautiful. The debate continued for 3 days. Chancellor gathered support for a second invasion. 5 species agreed to join him, promising thousands of ships for another attack on Earth. But as they prepared their coalition, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Palmer requested a private meeting with Elder. They met in a small garden on the outskirts of the capital city, far from listening devices and political games. "Your people have made their point," said. "The question now is what you want, revenge or peace." "We want peace," Palmer said. "We have always wanted peace, but not the peace of the weak, not the peace of species that accept being controlled. We want true peace, as equals." Studied the human for a long moment. "You know that is building a coalition. He will come for your world again." "We know. And you are not afraid." Palmer smiled slightly. "We have been afraid for 100 years. Fear is what drove us to build our weapons. Fear is what made us strong, but we are not afraid anymore. Now it is the galaxy's turn to feel what we felt." "That is a dangerous path," said. "Fear can become hatred. Hatred can become endless war." "It does not have to," Palmer replied. "There is another way. Your species have been watching the galaxy for 100,000 years. You have seen civilizations rise and fall. You know that the Council's way of controlling young species only creates enemies. Help us change that." Was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "I am very old," he said. "I have seen the Council make the same mistakes again and again. Perhaps it is time for something new." He extended his thin, fragile hand. "I will speak for peace. I will argue against coalition. I cannot promise success, but I can promise to try." Palmer shook his hand carefully, aware of how delicate the elder was. "That is all we ask," he said. "A chance to prove that we can be more than enemies." Far away on Earth, Secretary General Moore received Palmer's report. She read it twice, then looked at Admiral. "Is on our side," she said, "but is still building his coalition, 5 species, thousands of ships." "What do we do?" asked. Moore's cold smile appeared again. "We show them what else we have been hiding. It is time for the galaxy to learn that defeating our fleet was the easy part." She pressed a button on her desk. "Doctor, activate Protocol Eclipse. Show them what we have in their space." Across the galaxy, in orbit around 5 different hidden satellites came to life. They had been there for decades, waiting. And now the galaxy would learn just how deep humanity's preparations went. Chancellor was about to launch the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. 10,000 ships from 5 different species gathered at the edge of Council space. They carried enough firepower to burn a dozen worlds. They carried soldiers hungry for revenge against the species that had humiliated the Council. Stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching his armada assemble. This time, there would be no mistakes. This time, humanity would be erased from the galaxy. "All ships are in position, Chancellor," his tactical officer reported. "We are ready to jump to Earth's system on your command." Allowed himself a smile of satisfaction. The humans had been clever, but cleverness could not defeat overwhelming numbers. 10,000 ships against whatever remained of Earth's defenses. The math was simple. "All ships," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "Prepare to—" His words were cut off by an alarm. "What is that?" demanded. "Unknown contacts appearing near his officer said, fear creeping into his voice. "They appeared from nowhere, they are in orbit around." Felt his blood turn cold. On screen. The display changed to show his, beautiful with its purple oceans and golden continents. And surrounding it, like a ring of death, were hundreds of small satellites. A human voice came through the communication system. "Chancellor, this is Dr. Laura of the Earth Defense Network. Please look at your tactical display." The display updated. Those satellites were not just satellites. They were weapons. The same gravity weapons that had crushed the Council fleet were now positioned around his planet. "We placed these devices in orbit around your 30 years ago," continued. "We have similar devices around every planet belonging to your coalition. We did not come here today. We have been here for decades, waiting." Could not speak, he could barely breathe. "If your fleet takes one more step toward Earth, we will activate these weapons. Your worlds will die, your species will end. Not because we want this, but because you left us no choice." The communication ended. For a long moment, no one on the bridge moved. "Chancellor," his officer asked quietly, "your orders?" Stared at the display showing his surrounded by human weapons. 30 years. They had been there for 30 years. While he was planning to conquer Earth, Earth had already won the war. "Stand down," he whispered. "Chancellor." "Stand down," repeated louder this time. "All ships powered down weapons, cancel the attack." Across the fleet, confusion spread, but orders were orders. Slowly, the massive armada began to power down. On Earth, Secretary General Moore watched the news with quiet satisfaction. Admiral stood beside her. "They are standing down," he said. "They had no choice. They finally understand that this war was lost before it started." "And now—" Moore turned to face him. "Now comes the hard part. Winning a war is one thing. Winning the peace is much more difficult." 3 weeks later, a peace conference was held on a neutral space station between Earth and Council space. Representatives from all 12 Council species attended, along with Ambassador Palmer and Secretary General Moore. The negotiations lasted for 8 days. There was shouting, there were threats, there were moments when it seemed like everything would collapse and the war would begin again. But in the end, an agreement was reached. Humanity would become a full member of the Galactic Council, with equal rights and equal voice. Earth's weapons would remain in place, but would never be used unless humanity was attacked first. The hidden satellites around Council worlds would be removed, but humanity would keep the technology. Most importantly, the old rules about controlling young species would be changed. No species would be limited in their development. No species would be destroyed for growing too quickly. Chancellor was not present at the signing ceremony. He had been removed from power by his own people, blamed for leading them to the edge of extinction. Elder spoke instead. "For 50,000 years, the Council has ruled this galaxy," he said. "We believed we knew what was best for everyone. We believed that young species needed to be controlled for their own good. We were wrong." He turned to look at the human delegation. "Humanity has taught us a valuable lesson. They taught us that strength does not come from age or tradition. It comes from determination, from creativity, from the refusal to accept being treated as less than you are." He paused for a moment. "We thought we were teaching children their place. Instead, we discovered that the children had grown up without us noticing, and they have become something remarkable." Secretary General Moore stood to accept the treaty. As she signed the document that would change galactic history, she allowed herself a small, cold smile. This moment had been 100 years in the making. Every sacrifice, every secret, every sleepless night had led to this. After the ceremony, Moore and stood on an observation deck, watching ships from a dozen species pass by. Some were heading to Earth for the first time as friends instead of enemies. Others were returning to there with news of the new order. "Do you think it will last?" asked. Moore considered the question carefully. "For now, yes, they are afraid of us. Fear will keep them honest." "And later?" "Later, fear will fade. They will start to forget what happened here. They will start to think that maybe humans are not so dangerous after all. Some will want to test us again." "And when that happens?" Moore's smile grew slightly warmer. "Then we will remind them as many times as necessary." She turned back to the window. "That is the lesson of today, Daniel. The galaxy respects strength. It respects those who cannot be pushed around. For 100 years we pretended to be weak. We will never pretend again." Nodded slowly, he thought about all the people who had made this possible. The scientists who had built the weapons, the soldiers who had kept the secrets, the leaders who had planned for decades. They had all understood the same truth. The galaxy was not a kind place. It was a place where the weak were conquered and the strong survived. Humanity had chosen to be strong. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we build something new," Moore said. "A galaxy where species work together instead of conquering each other, where strength is used to protect, not destroy. It will take generations, but it can be done." "Do you really believe that?" Moore was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than had ever heard it. "I believe in humanity," she said. "I believe that we are capable of terrible things and wonderful things. For 100 years we prepared for war. Now we have the chance to prepare for peace, real peace, the kind that lasts." She looked at with eyes that had finally lost their coldness. "That is worth fighting for, don't you think?" Smiled, "Yes, I think it is." Far away, across the galaxy, Ambassador Palmer walked through the streets of the council capital. For the first time in 23 years, no one looked at him with contempt. No one treated him like a child. Instead, they watched him with respect, and just a little bit of fear. He stopped at a small park and sat on a bench, looking up at the alien stars. 100 years ago, the council had destroyed a human colony because they thought humanity was getting too strong. Today, humanity stood as equals among the stars. It was a long journey, Palmer thought. It was a painful journey. But in the end, humanity had answered the galaxy's challenge with something more powerful than weapons or technology. They had answered with determination that could not be broken. They had answered with a cold smile. And the galaxy would never forget it.